As you begin listening to these words, you may notice it feels more like music than instruction, and you can begin to sense how every teaching is a mirror, and every mirror is a doorway. There was once a traveller who discovered that intuition was not a lightning bolt from the sky, but a quiet compass buried in the chest. At first, they doubted it, the way we doubt a whisper in a storm. But each time they paused, each time they listened, the world rearranged itself just a little more around that inner tuning fork. You can notice that pattern too, how every breath, it's already a lesson in receiving and releasing. Breath in, receive data. Breath out, return it, transformed. That's channeling, not the mystical performance people think, but the everyday act of turning raw experience into guidance. The teachings, the messages, the intuitive upgrades, they're not new software. They're remembered operating systems that you had before fear installed its patches. So you can begin now to imagine reinstalling that original clarity, the version of you that knows when to feel deeply and when to let go lightly. Because when you act on that knowing, when you live these lessons, life stops being a maze and becomes a spiral staircase. Each step looks the same, yet you rise with every turn. That's how spiritual growth works. Repetition that elevates. Now imagine the consequences, the branching futures that stretch out like constellations above you. When you trust this compass, relationships clean themselves. Synchronicities increase. Decisions stop feeling like Russian roulette and start feeling like choreography. That's the big picture. Alignment replaces anxiety. And yes, if you ignore it, the energy stagnates. The same lesson loops, louder each time. It's not punishment, it's physics. Energy unexpressed becomes pressure. Truth unfollowed becomes friction. Follow it, it becomes flow. So right now, perhaps you could entertain the idea that every intuitive nudge is both science and spirit. Neural pattern recognition meeting soul pattern remembrance. That's why intuition works. Your brain processes millions of data points unconsciously. Your energy field senses pattern, and your conscious mind receives it as a gut feeling. That's not magic. That's magnificent biology doing spirituality. And you might start to realize the bigger purpose of these teachings isn't to make you special, but useful. A clear channel becomes a clearer world. You become a signal booster for coherence. And each time you act on intuition, you help reality debug itself. And as you think about this, maybe there's a smile somewhere inside, because you've done it before. You've listened, acted, seen proof. That's evidence. And evidence builds belief. And belief changes behaviour. And behaviour rewrites destiny. So consider this. Every time you feel the urge to hesitate, that's just an old program trying to buffer. And every time you breathe and act anyway, you become the update. So go ahead, play with these lessons. Treat them like a new instrument. not a rule book. Experiment. Notice the feedback. Tweak the signal. That's how intuition sharpens, through joyful iteration. Because in the end, spirituality isn't about floating away. It's about tuning in so deeply you finally belong here. And as you open your eyes, whether literally or metaphorically, you may discover the teachings were never about escape. They were about embodiment. They were about becoming the channel to which life speaks sense into chaos.